Greetings today in love, light, and wisdom to you all. Today I am going to give a very important message. As many of you know who come to my channel, I'm an astral empath, meaning that I channel energies that are from other constellations, planetary systems. I look at the information in the Earth Collective and try to put the puzzle pieces together for others. One of my purposes as a teacher in life, online as well as offline, is to bring more clarity. It's a form of education that I feel that souls need in order to reach more clarity within themselves so that they can later on become the teachers. And the student-teacher cycle is really what I am about. It's not me just being a teacher, but actually teaching others how to become a teacher one day. And that's very much how this universe works. Advanced species that humans have been in contact with are also our teachers in many ways. And they will teach humans in lots of direct ways, through messages and through visions and ways that people have been in contact with higher dimensional beings. And they will also teach indirectly, in which they themselves are not even conscious maybe or aware of the teaching that they do, but they are moved by the natural laws of the universe to provide a mirror to humanity so that humanity can know what they are doing and where they are going, where they are headed. So I do have a warning with this video, just because I know that this can be scary to look at when we look at alien abductions and when we look at some of the reality of things that are going on in this world. But my message is not to invoke fear in you, but rather to educate you, to put puzzle pieces together, to bring more clarity into your mind so that you no longer have fear, but we look at things and recognize really what it is. And I truly believe that this is what the new earth is all about, is getting more clarity within our souls so that we can move into a brighter future together. So that being said, I myself personally have always had kind of a fear of the grays that have abducted people in their lives. And I know that there are many people who claim that abductions are false or not true, but I would never take on that responsibility to negate someone else's experiences. If you are somebody that follows alien abductions closely and you really look at their stories, if you are somebody who has compassion in your hearts and understand that people go through certain experiences, and our job is not to negate them and say that they're not true. That's a form of gaslighting, and I am not going to do that to anyone. I'm going to find ways for people to understand what they are going through, what they are experiencing. And I believe that we need to take alien abductees very seriously because we need to understand what it is that they are experiencing. There is a collective experience of abductions. If you do not know much about them, all abductees have claimed that they have been experimented on, and quite roughly, in which they experience the pain, or sometimes maybe if they're lucky, they don't. But some people do have those memories. The reason why alien abductions are sometimes vague and it's hard to remember is because they enter into the place of the subconscious. We store all of the unpleasant things or the things that we don't want to necessarily be on the surface of our consciousness in the subconscious. They're not always bad. There are actually some really beautiful truths in the subconscious as well. But there are also very scary things and things that we go through and traumas in our lives that we push down into the subconscious. So through dream hypnosis sessions and things like that, psychologists are able to kind of uncover those memories that people have lost during these times of alien abductions on Earth. So I have been somebody that in my life, I have been afraid to look at the graves, whatever it may be. It could be from my past life experience. It could be something within my own subconscious. I do not personally believe that I have been abducted, but I do believe that I have been in contact with advanced higher dimensional beings, and I myself identify as a star seed. So I am open and receptive to that information that can channel through me, through these beings. Over the weekend, and it might have something to do with the alignment of Venus and Jupiter, because the celestial bodies do affect the Earth in terms of energies that are brought into the world collective. And that's how zodiac signs work and all that. As Jupiter and Venus were aligned this weekend, I was very tapped into some very healing type of energies, energies that come from I guess, a place that we might as a humanity be very upset at, angry, in fear of. And I only experienced an understanding of great love. And that is because I have always been tapped into the natural law of oneness. So as I am more receptive and clearer about that natural law within the universe, then I am able to perceive things that are about our cosmic unity. And one of the things that we must know is on this earth, it is a reflection of what we do that come down to us through higher dimensional beings. As above, so below. So aliens actually represent humanity, and they are mirrors to us about our future, about where we are going, where we are headed, lots of different pathways that we can take when we look at different beings. They represent getting through kind of the old ways that humans have been through and evolving and moving into a future of advanced technology, advanced understandings, spiritual grasps, and learnings. So that is what aliens are. They're mirrors to us. So I decided to open myself up to some of the beings that I, in the past, have not wanted to look at. And I was called to actually look into the movie The Fourth Kind, which many of you maybe have seen. If you have not, I recommend it. It has what they say is real audio files of actual investigations into abductees' experiences by looking at their hypnosis sessions with a psychologist. But I will get into that more. What I first want to talk about is what this whole video is about, is looking at the mirrors of the universe and seeing what humanity is doing. So animal dissecting is something that we have to look at and where it began. It actually began in ancient Greece, and even maybe civilizations before then. Those that have practiced a form of witchcraft or type of like divination, they used to open up animals and look at their insides to determine the fate or destiny. And then ancient Greece physicians started to open up animals and look at their anatomy to understand what is an animal made of. You know, what are these body parts and how do they compare and contrast to humans? So it started out really in ancient Greece, where it became something that was known as a medical benefit to humans to do. So they started to kill animals or possibly use animals that were already dead. But sadly, I believe that the experimentation on live animals really did begin around the ancient Greek times through the physicians that were trying to study the body and understand more about the human anatomy. But animal testing as we know it today, did not begin until the 19th century by a man named Louis Pasteur, who administered anthrax to sheep, to live sheep. He actually used anthrax. Now, if we can look at the core of that event, do we really need anthrax on Earth? That's only been developed for a military weapon. Well, that's when it all started, was when he performed an experiment on live sheep using anthrax and seeing the devastating effects of it. In 1850, Charles Darwin, in his evolutionary theory, suggested that animals could be used as effective models to test subjects because we share the same DNA and we're all connected. So he started thinking that because animals and the evolutionary lineage of humans, that there was some similarities there, that we could test on animals for the benefit of humans. And this, in 1922, began animal testing, which became allowed when insulin was isolated from dogs in their dog body for diabetes testing. During this time, primate labs were set up for vaccine testing. So then they started to say, hey, let's just have laboratories full of animals so that we can better humanity. So they started to grab a monkey from their habitat, all these monkeys, and started putting them in cages, and they started to test on them for medical advancement to humans. In 1996, cloning of Dolly the sheep happened. So this is something that even went further back into 1922. And then the cloning of Dolly the sheep happened. And now we are in that phase where we are still testing on animals today. Today, almost all cosmetic food and medical companies still test on animals. For cosmetics, a vanity product for humans, animal testing began after an incident where a woman's personal use of a mascara darkener for her eyelashes gave her burning eyes and ultimately blindness. From this point, the FDA passed a law saying that things needed to be tested in some way in clinical trials before it was released to humans. So this raises ethical questions. Is mascara more important than the life of hundreds of bunnies that were tested on to get the perfect formula for the darkening of eyelashes for humans? And what they did was they put the mascara wand in bunnies' eyes. They took bunnies from their habitats, living peacefully, and they stuck mascara wands in their eyes or close to it to see if there was any irritation. This is sometimes, I believe, the message that comes from Semjase, the Pleiadian, who spoke to Billy Meyer when she said that makeup was ultimately disgusting because humans, in their search for vanity and beauty, often will have to test on animals to see if that makeup is something that they can buy, if consumers can actually purchase on the market. So I believe that that is really where that connection is. Humans view animals as lower beings, ultimately. Many of us are awakening into our elven soul where we're feeling one with animals. We're connecting. We are choosing to eat maybe less of their meat. We are choosing to be guardians over animals and help them in many ways. We are getting closer to animals. We are feeling our energy merge with them. And that in terms will always include alleviating the suffering of them and bringing more comfort to them. But most scientists in these industries of cosmetic, the scientific communities and the food industries still look at animals as lower beings to test on for the advancement of humans. And it is simply not true. And we will learn that towards the end. So somebody asked me, what is the connection between alien abductions and animal testing and animal abduction from their habitats? Well, imagine that you are a monkey in your own habitat and you are captured by, people that put you in a van, take you away from your family in order to strap you down to a cold steel table and put things in you, poisons, toxins, things that humans want to consume themselves. Animals are being used to be tested upon in the same way that aliens would come in the middle of the night, take Billy from his bed in a rural setting where no one else can see, bring him to their ship or their place of laboratory and experiments, and take whatever they want from Billy. Reproductive cells are usually the things that are taking, that they are taking, and that is the pattern that emerges within alien abductions, is that the reproductive cells are usually targeted because that is what can help them naturally reproduce and can also help them further develop another form of creation or life somewhere else that can also produce naturally. So this is the mirroring effect that humanity is seeing. And I received this message very clearly this weekend about it. So Semyase's messages to Billy Meyer was a warning that the earliest form of worship or the earliest form of humans kind of meeting their ancestors or other beings that are advanced or older than them, and them being worshipped as gods or deities. She says this: the celestial sons, or star travelers, as we call our ancestors, were native to various planets or of stars in another space-time configuration, or far away from the Sol system, SOL system, where planets were fundamentally different climatically. Consequently, they also produced other races that were able to adapt themselves to the climate from the very beginning. Those who were climatically conditioned also developed suitable skin colors, of whom there are countless ones in the universe. The heights of their bodies were also different because, depending on the gravity of the respective planets, they ranged from only 50 centimeters tall up to several meters high. There were even beings that you call giants, colossi, or titans, and such beings also animated the earth. They also witnessed descendants here, but they were gradually wiped out because they were unusually very malicious and exercised tyranny of the human race. The different color races of today are thus descendants of our variously colored ancestors who came from distant and different planets of foreign stars. So let's take a look at the movie The Fourth Kind, actually centered around real life events of the most amount of people mysteriously disappearing. If you have not watched this movie, you may want to, because of the live footage that they do provide and the audio that they provide. Some people have tried to debunk them and claim that they're not, but I say watch it, and watch it with an open mind, and try to understand that even though maybe those specific audio videos and files may not be exactly maybe the events that transpired in Alaska Nome, 24 people had been taken since 1960s and 2004. And it caused people to believe that it was a serial killer involved, but ultimately they never found these people. And Alaska actually is known as the land of the lost. 3,323 people were reported missing in the state of Alaska itself, far higher than anywhere else in the country. Since people began recording numbers in 1988, they have received at least 60,700 reports of missing people in Alaska. So in 2009, Universal Pictures released the Fourth Kind movie based on this event of Nome, Alaska, missing 24 people mysteriously. And it centers around the life of psychologist Dr. Abigail Ebele, Abby Tyler, who lives in Nome, Alaska. And she actually is trying to research the uprising of insomnia cases in clients. Through sessions of hypnosis, each of these people in Alaska say that they report waking up at 3:33 a.m. or around that time, around 3 o'clock in the morning, and seeing a white owl outside their window. Shortly after that, they hear violent sounds outside the room, followed by someone or something dragging them out of their bed against their will as they scream and howl and protest, and then they black out. And then they don't remember what happens to them, but yet they're scared to go to sleep. You know, they have this kind of anxiousness and this fear because those events of their abduction is still in their subconscious. It's still there. And that's the thing about the subconscious, is nothing has ever really gone away. And so you might act out your subconscious in your life and you don't really know why. You can't really see what is the reason until you really unearth the subconscious memories. So these occurrences actually follow very similar descriptions from alien abductions around the world. And many abductions report seeing animals such as owls or monkeys or raccoons outside their windows around 3:30 a.m. or around that time, right before their abduction. I would say that the owls, monkeys, or raccoons, the way that their faces are at night, that is how we generally can see what the grays look like, with the big staring black eyes. And raccoons have that kind of mask around their eyes. Owls have those, you know, that deep set eyes. And monkeys too. So there's a general look that most people are seeing. It's kind of a humanoid figure. It can be scary to look at because they're supposed to be scary, and there's a reason why behind it, and I will get to that more. So one of the things that this movie brings forward is the audio file of one of the Greys speaking in Sumerian, ancient Sumerian language. And a linguist looks at it and hears it and says, well, this alien saying, our creation, examine, ruin, or destroy, which to me as an interpreter means that the alien is saying, this is our creation. Humanity, we have had a hand in helping create. We have the right to examine as we want, to benefit our species or to benefit another form of life in another planet. And it is our right to ruin or destroy it, meaning they don't care if they kill their subject in the process of finding their scientific investigations. And what does that sound like? It sounds like a lot of the human scientists that have killed many animals for the quest of actually trying to find the right vaccine or the right mascara, or, you know, whatever it is that consumers buy and humans use. They have killed many animals in the quest for doing it. One of the things that the linguist says in the movie that's very true, and you can actually look into the records yourself, he says, you can go into any Sumerian exhibit and see what I'm about to tell you. Drawings of rockets that look like Apollo launching into the sky, men and women in spacesuits that look like oxygen masks. And the artwork was created in the 4th millennium BCE, 4,000 years before Christ walked the planet. Genesis, Noah's Ark, to name a few, both of these stories existed in Sumer 6,000 years before the Bible was written. Genesis came from the Sumerian epic of creation, and Noah's Ark came from the Sumerian deluge. There's actually a tale about a great flood in Sumerian texts. The alien god legend has its basis in Sumerian history. So Sumerian text is basically where you have to go for the origins of all the other religious books that we have, because there's been this chronicle telling of human history and using an outside god as a way to look at, where we came from. So here's where it gets scary, and the movie is a little frightening. But if you're ready to kind of face your fears, then I recommend it. So the actual recording you hear is a piercing scream, and you hear Dr. Abigail Emily Tyler, actually, because you find out later on in the movie, spoiler alert, that she also is connected to these aliens as well, that they have been also abducting her. They have also been abducting her husband, only because of the convenience of where she lives in Alaska. And this is the connection that she has to her clients. So you hear a semi-robotic voice speaking in the Sumerian text, and you hear that voice, and this is what the message said. Was basically, it's my examination. I can ruin, destroy what I please. Later on, you see the next audio, or the visual of it, is a man that sits up in his bed. He has an alien distorted voice come through him when they are all kind of gathering around and they're trying to ask him more questions. And the alien says, "Tyler, respond. No need. Pray. I'm here. End study." And at end study, the alien breaks his vertebrae and paralyzes him from within his own body. I mean, we're talking about really advanced technology, probably implanted some kind of, technological implant that can do that to the body and cause nerve damage like that. So here's the thing. If you believe this to be true, and you actually look at the film and the audio files, one of the things that you notice is that there's this pattern that these aliens think that they can do whatever they want, because humans to them are their subjects, they're animals, they're lower life forms, they're not as advanced as them, that, they have the right to take anybody in the middle of the night and do as they please. Sounds a lot like human scientists, or those that are in the field of taking animals and using them to test on. So what happens is, at the end of the video, Abby, she was delving too deep into, I guess, the story of the aliens. So they took her daughter, and the truth comes out at the end. Abby is crying, saying, "Give me my child," and she hears this coming from her own voice, saying, "I enforce my will, not," unknown words, "world." Probably not your world, but our world. Child is ours. Child will never return. My, unknown words. I am. Truth remains. I am Savior. I'm the Father. I am God. That's what the alien says. Later on in the interview, Abigail is actually asked, "Do you think that was really God coming through you?" And she said, "Well, the presence that you feel, the hopelessness that you feel, it can't be God." Her idea of what God is not some limited being that needs to take from another lower life form in order to create. So that is what the truth comes out more in that. So when we bring it down to our level on Earth, and you look at the way that the aliens were acting, and then you look at the way that humans act towards animals, humans believe that they have every right to take from animals whatever they want. The meat, the organs, experiment on them, everything. And science is evolving to a place now where this is not necessary. Possibly in the past, it was in order to get to where we are today technologically, but I will discuss with you why we no longer need animal testing and it should be banned worldwide. And here's why. But before I do, I want to give you a message that came through my hands as a spirit writer, as an astral empath. And this is what happened to me over this weekend. This is why I want to share with you, because I wanted to do this live so that more people can hear it, because I am just a vessel for this energy, which I think is needed on Earth right now, in order to have us move past some of the old archaic ways of doing things so that we can truly evolve to the next phase of humanity. So here is what the message was. This is a greater message from, I would say, the Lyran collective, also a bit of the reptilian collective. I was kind of, tapping into with my other message about New Earth. But I also, as an astral empath, was able to tap into these Sumerian greys that say that they've had a hand in creating humanity and are the ones that are doing the abductions and the experimentations on humans today. So here's what came. The Anunnakis are a part of the holographic consciousness of the Prime Source that represents the most harshest levels of our known reality of humanity itself. Abductions happen around the hours of 3 a.m. as a symbol of the 3D Earth, a time code to know what part of reality or dimension those abducted are being represented in, not only for themselves, but to others that hear their story. There is nothing the abducted have done to be abducted. Please release from the guilt that you personally caused your abductions. You are just a player in a greater story that is unveiling and revealing itself. It also will do something for your own spiritual growth and where you need to go, mentally and consciously. But you did not do anything to be abducted. That's what they wanted me to let you know. Please release from the guilt that you caused this personally. Innocent people are selected by the aliens to act as a larger part of their experiments. Just like innocent animals are selected to be experimented on, it's the same thing. Very innocent people are selected, and it's only because of the convenience of the location they are in. It says, innocent people are selected by aliens to act as a larger part of their experiments because of convenience of locations and willingness of the mind of where they are consciously. There is a point in your evolution that you can get to where if you came up across beings like this, you actually could stand up to them. But you really have to be in your power, and you have to be a vessel for the entire consciousness of love, and you have to be really aware of yourself in that moment. There is a way to stand up to these beings, but sometimes the humans that are abducted are not there in that present state of awareness when they are being abducted. They're just simply Earth humans, and they're just right there in the 3D, and that's it. So I'm just giving you just kind of a heads up how you can kind of take control of the situation when you evolve to the point of understanding your greater power within, to sever contracts with these beings. And I mean soul contracts, on a greater level. They are creative beings who have had a small hand in helping early humans develop, and they feel entitled to do as they wish to humans now. They are a pure reflection of the way humans have treated lesser advanced life forms to them, such as animals, to experiment on. and take what they want for their own gain. They represent the harshest cycles of life, where an advanced life form who is disconnected from a lower life form takes advantage of them simply because they have the means to and they can. They're bigger, they have advanced technology, they have logic and reason, whatever it is. It's about having a known advantage and taking advantage of others, knowing that you can. This is the darkest place of separation from prime source, when one can use another like an object. It is the ultimate isolation from spirit, and it is where people are on earth too, when they use animals in the harshest ways to experiment upon or for unnecessary food. They destroy humans, they want to, just as some humans destroy animals for vanity, for greed, and for sport, fun to some. Yes, we understand the cycle of life is birth and death, but there is a gentle occurrence of this in time changes of nature. Earth scientists are being mirrored back their harsh treatment and cruelty of animals through the cruelty of abductions. There is no set evil or maliciousness in these acts themselves. An earth scientist does not take a rat out of the cage, wishing to torture it for medical purposes with joy. But it is injected with poison and toxins to observe how it will act, how it will react. Coldly and absent-mindedly and unaware of a greater interconnection to that animal. This is how other alien creatures act towards humans, cold and uncaring to get what they want from them. Because the aliens are scientists too, and they see humans as the animals. This is part of the constructs of the holographic projection of the inner mind of humanity as a species and what is being reflected back to us so we can learn and grow. Aliens drill holes and do bodily experiments and take out the human body, take out whatever of the human body as they please in their human subjects. In the same way, scientists today do the same to animals. There is a way to transform and change all of this, but it would mean for the entire species of humanity to not use live animals as things to experiment on or store away in horrible conditions only for food later. It is true, some of these beings do eat humans. They experiment on feasting on their flesh and tissues. They take them from here on Earth and use them for food and whatever purposes. It's exactly the same what humans do to animals. Remember, you are only animals to them right now, as animals are all lesser forms to your scientific, beauty, and food industries on Earth. As Earth human scientists say, they are using animals to increase the benefits of humanity. These highly evolved technological alien creator beings are using humans for the same. They are using them for their organic reproductive cells, largely because they are trying to survive with their species, grow and extend their lives, and increase their own benefit medically. They are also trying to develop new life forms, and so they take from the old life forms to give to the new on other planets far away. Currently, humans are test subjects, as animals are test subjects to humans, and the circle of life is seen, and the mirrors of our reality is reflected back to humanity. These aliens are frightening and cold because they have evolved emotionless beings, and they're supposed to reflect the The fear that animals would have if they were taken out of a cage, if like a bunny was taken out of a cage and it didn't know what was happening to it, and it gets put on a cold slab to be injected with something, it's exactly the same emotion that a human would feel looking at these scary alien kind of monsters in front of them. To a rabbit, human scientists are monsters as well. In many ways, they are trying to correct mistakes of the past as well as enhance their species now. That's what the aliens are doing. Here is what we can promise from the holographic projection of the universe, from the natural laws. If all humans evolve to find a way to stop experimenting on animals or treating them like objects to use rather than beings that suffer trauma and pain too, then it will eliminate these aliens from your reality. There will be no truth to mirror back your reality with them there, because you will no longer be like them. The earth scientists will basically no longer be mirroring what these other aliens are doing to humans. As above, so below. As you know, fix the mentality on earth and fix the same mentalities in the sky above you. What happens when animal testing and keeping animals in horrible conditions in factories for food is abolished completely from Earth? You will have advanced races see you for the peaceful creator beings you are. They will scan you energetically to see that you don't destroy unconsciously and you respect all life. They will have to abide to the natural laws of the universe and reflect the peaceful nature that you project forwards. They will leave you alone or make higher level connections to you, meaning these advanced races that we're scared of right now, they actually start to communicate to humans because they will no longer see humans as animals to be used for, whatever purposes, but they will see you as equal to them, on their same level, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. It will continue. Oh, here it is. They will have to abide to the natural laws of the universe and reflect the peaceful nature that you project forwards. They will leave you alone or make higher level connections to you. Yet, your whole species is not peaceful yet, but it is becoming slowly. It will continue to become more peaceful when humans look at every action from top level of food corporations to scientific labs of discovery. It is a lie to think you need to use animals to experiment on. Plant-based meats and artificial meats are being discovered. Use your creative minds to think of better solutions for all life on Earth. Discovery of ways of how to use science without hurting live animals will become a problem to work on together. You can do it, as countless other advanced beings have. These Anunnaki, Greys, and countless other outsider beings will recognize you for the great philosophers you are becoming, that would never hurt animals and cause them pain and suffering through unawareness of actions. Your whole world can change in the way you include animals into the golden rule. Find a way around their habitats. Seek to make their temporary lives more comfortable. Take care of the animals that you have thought as being beneath you. See them as your friends and companions on earth to look after. You are shepherds of them, but instead you have been their enslavers and torturers because you have been unaware and unconscious of your actions. This is how some creative beings have been towards you. They could be shepherds and teachers to you with your mind and abilities, but instead, they have only seen you as lower life animals, only because that is what you project as a species. When the whole species projects peace and care for the smaller and less advanced life forms, humans will no longer be seen as lesser life forms to them. You will be masters to the galactic neighbors and keepers of other life forms and peaceful in many ways. This is your possible future of no more abductions or evil experience done to you. Good begets good. Many of you have made the effort, so we provide a message and an affirmation that what you seek to abolish as the cruelty towards animals is the truth. We want to leave you with something to ponder deeply. Death itself is not always cruelty. It is about the journey, not the destination with judgment, of cruelty towards living beings. Torture, inexcusable living conditions by neglect and abuse is cruelty before death. Seek for the higher road, and your level of communication and connection with higher beings will increase. You will vibrate on the same levels as those who are also very peaceful in mind, and you will no longer be in the same reality of those who are not peaceful towards humans. Nobody can take advantage of and come like a thief in the night to sovereign master creator beings. This is your destiny, but you must choose it by following the right pathway. Find the right pathway by being loving and caring towards everything. Don't enforce your will upon any living thing. Do not show cold hearts towards any living, and you won't have cold-hearted creatures or aliens staring back at you at night from the skies or your bedroom window. Like a rat in a cage, you are just to them. Now, some of you may be saying, well, we need to experiment on animals for scientific advancement. It's not true. It's not true. And here's why. Here is why. There are humane alternatives that are already out there. It's actually just cheaper to experiment on animals. It is cutting corners, and it is something that companies are really just doing to save money. Professor James Hickman from University of Central Florida developed a new technology that mimics standard human muscular function, which allows researchers to monitor muscular function and its response to different treatments without using humans or animal subjects. That's already an alternative. Another one is bioengineering PhD student Alan Faulkner Jones began pioneering the use of 3D printing to replace medical animal testing. And a team of Maryland scientists is using adult stem cells that can grow into cells from just about any of the body's organs, which they believe will allow them to more accurately and more quickly test effects of a toxin or a drug, potentially any substance at all, on a person, eliminating animal testing. So using actual technology of 3D printing and growing organs that are not connected to a consciousness or a soul, these are the ways that we can see and test the effects, because there's something really important that scientists have not told everybody. And it's something that Professor Hickman actually comes clean and says. We have cured over 200 diseases in rats and mice that hasn't translated to humans because our psychology, our physiology is different than animals. People in general have longer lifespans than most non-human species. They metabolize substances differently, and they're exposed to a multitude of different environmental factors over our lifetimes. Diseases that develop in people differ in significant ways from artificially imposed symptoms or in animals that have been genetically engineered. So there are actually many if you look it up, and I left some links, there are a lot of cases in which there was just invalid results because humans and animals are so different that many animals have actually been kind of just killed for nothing. Unfortunately, they have wasted away in these laboratories for absolutely nothing because unfortunately they just weren't a match for human physiology. And this is the thing, is we're throwing away these animals' lives, and these animals are conscious and aware beings just like us. So if we wouldn't want some other species to take us from our habitats and use us in their experiments, shoving tubes down our mouths, having horrible experiments, and providing these kinds of experiences that people still are very, very traumatically, suffering from, then we ourselves have to be this example of peace. We cannot do this any longer to animals, or we will continue to be plagued by alien abductions in the middle of the night because they simply are mirroring back our reality. If we want to change our reality and we want these beings off of our planet, we don't want them anymore, this is what we need to do. Some people have said that they're for advancing our DNA. I have news for you. They are not. Not right now. Not when we have our scientists that are selfishly using, animals to advance our own species. Are scientists experimenting on animals to advance animals? Not so much. They're experimenting on animals to advance their own species. So aliens are not really experimenting on humans in order to advance human species. Although there is this interconnection, it has been severed in their minds because of the way that they have evolved. This is why they are not gentle and delicate, and this is why they have caused trauma to people in these experiences, is because it simply mirrors back what is going on Earth. So how do I know all this? How can this be proven? Well, it's going to take some research to look into, as far as looking at the patterns that emerge from alien abductions. But one of the things that I know is the natural law of oneness, and quantum physics is basically teaching us now. It enables particles to, the quantum entanglement law enables particles to affect each other instantaneously across any distance. So when you get into the natural laws of oneness, you start to understand quantum physics and look at our world from an atomic level, or look at ourselves and what's going on in our lives. And then you start to see the interconnections. This is where you're provided the mirror. And quantum entanglement is the law, or the theory, the idea that entangled particles would remain connected even if they were on the opposite sides of the universe. That across any distance in the universe, because of quantum entanglement, because the universe is actually comprised of the same elements that make up matter, we are connected to these aliens that are doing abductions just as much as they are connected to us. So this is the mirror of reality, is when you get into the subatomic particles of reality and you understand that everything shares a quantum field of energy. That's when you start to realize, oh, so nothing happens randomly. Everything happens for a reason, and everything is a mirror to us. It's a mirror for us to see our own truth. And when you see your own truth, this is how we learn. And this is what humanity is learning right now. So this is what I wanted to say, and it is part of the Elven Light University because it is all about caring for animals and being connected to all of nature. And I really received these messages this weekend because I believe that we are heading into the new year. And we're going to see some major changes. Already, I just saw an article that Trump passed a law that animal abuse and cruelty would actually be jailed. You could be jailed up to 7 years of time if you are passing on videos of cruelty towards animals, or even if you're just maybe found to even do abuse or cruelty to animals. Now we have to move it onto the scientific and also the food industries and the cosmetic industries. We really have to push this new technology. Stop getting these companies to cut corners and look at the animals as connected to us, and understand that if we don't want to be treated like animals, if human beings do not want to be abducted and experimented on, we certainly should not abduct animals from their happy habitats with their family and experiment on them. And this is how we end that reality and we move into something greater, which I believe humanity has a potential for. And I think that this new year is going to show this new potential coming forward. So that is what I wanted to say. Please watch that video if you are ready to face your fears. I think it's very, very interesting. One of the things that I have learned is that I am not afraid of these grays as I used to be, but rather I am now trying to understand why they are in our experience. And because of my ability to remove my fear, I've been given these answers and this clarity. And that's really what it is. We should fear nothing in this universe because everything in this universe is about us. And once we let go of the fear, then the answers are revealed and we will have more clarity. And this is what I can say. So let this be a warning to, the scientific laboratories and all of this. And it would be interesting to see if anybody that does, actually have a hand on experimenting with animals, it would be interesting to see what their life was like, if they were actually at all maybe bothered by these beings, or if something could reflect their reality, although it has a lot to do with perceptions. So the way that you're open to perceiving things, if you're not really a seeker to understand things, and the mirror will not be very clear to you, you won't really see things. So that is the interconnection between all things. And that is what these alien abductions are about. And though people will say that they're for positive reasons, I would suggest that we look at them as something that we don't need. That eventually we'll get to the point where we won't have these beings taking from people or taking people, because we won't be those types of beings that they can do that to. And that's really what I want humanity to evolve to, because I don't think that anybody is willing to go with these beings and be experimented on and do all those things. Just as we can have alternative types of experimentation and scientific advancement where we don't operate or use live animals, then it's the same thing for these aliens, that they will, they'll have to realize, oh, well, so we can't experiment on live humans. They're conscious beings. Their wisdom, it's growing. They're aware of us. I guess we can't come like a thief in the night and just take whatever we want. I mean, this is what we have to start to do, is we have to start showing those higher advanced beings that this is who we are and this is who we are becoming. And this is how we change that reality together. So what can you do as an individual, right? Because I mean, maybe you don't work in a scientific laboratory. I mean, you don't have that power. You do have power though. Every single one of you has a choice. Make sure that you support the companies that do not do animal testing. Make sure that you buy your consumer products from companies that do not support that. So it'll take some research, but the PETA website is really good about that. There's many vegan websites that talk about this. Do what you can personally, and remember, it's a drop in the pond. And it is energy that you're sending forward. So every time that you make a positive effort to look for companies that do not support animal testing, that don't cut corners, that have found other ways to do things, then you are going to, push that energy out there and inspire others too. Maybe in your own life, you can talk to them as well. And it's important that we sort of bankrupt these companies that are testing on animals in a way. I mean, they have to learn there's a supply and demand, right? If they're doing something unethical that's not aligning to the human consciousness anymore, they're going to have to change their procedures. They're going to have to grow. They're going to have to stop cutting corners and stop trying to, just test on animals because it's cheaper. They're going to have to find a way, or let's be honest, and this is tough love, and I really mean this, they shouldn't be a company on earth at all. If they have to test on animals, then their creation is not that important and it's not that worth it to have. We do not need to have such and such consumer products that there's so much junk out there in this world that we do not need. And we certainly don't have to endanger animals' lives, kill them, or put them through horrible experimentations in order to have them. So this is going to bring up some ethical questions, whether we need these companies at all. So support the companies that do not do any animal testing and that have implemented these alternative types of tests in order to see if the products are safe for humans. And let's face it, if you have to test something to see if it's safe for humans, do we really need it? Ask ourselves these questions, because everything that comes from nature is generally, I mean, there are some things that we have to watch out for, but we really need to understand that, if our intention is right and if we're pulling from the right source or resources, then it's going to be safe for us regardless. And so, advanced species of humanity is not going to have to do this. And you could read that on the links that I provided you, that the future is no animal testing at all. We just need to get there. And these are the steps that we take to get there, to fight against the animal testing. Because just as we want to fight against the alien abductions and the human testing of humans, which I do personally, every time I read an alien abduction story and who I am, as a YouTuber, I receive emails sometimes of people that have had experiences with aliens and they're traumatized. And, the healer in me wants to alleviate the suffering of others and make sure that nobody has to go through that any longer. They don't have to wake up and see this being staring down at them from the foot of their bed, looking scary and shocking them. And it's the same feeling that, like a monkey would feel if they were taken out of their jungle and then put in this laboratory to live for the rest of their short temporary lives. I can only imagine the suffering that some of these animals have been through. If you really want to go down that road, you can really look at some of the horrible experimentation, the suffering that animals have been through. It's just heartbreaking, and we don't need it in the future of humanity. We don't need it. It doesn't belong here in the future. And that's really what I want to make a stand for. So thank you all for joining, and please take a look at the links. Do what you can to support the companies that do not do any animal testing, and together we will eliminate these beings from testing on humans too.